once again, and welcome to Heroes and Droids, your guide to movies and TV shows about superheroes, sci-fi, Disney, and action, from Marvel to DC, from Star Wars to Star Trek, from James Bond to the Fast and the Furious. We will review the theatrical films and streaming delights you care about most. This week we're reviewing Marvel's What If Episode 6. What if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? It is Episode 6, right? I do have that right. Yes. I am your host, Doc Rodden, and joining me tonight is the Slattman, Christopher Slattery. How you doing, sir?
Wakanda forever.
You're gonna make me cry. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore.
Killmonger forever.
No. Oh, boo. I don't. Well, all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into this episode. We're going to give our first impressions. That will be spoiler-free. And then we'll dive into a brief discussion about the show, which we will get into spoilers, including Easter eggs and debating about what they do to change this particular universe, this alternate universe. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. And of course, all the usual shenanigans. If you want to help us out, hit the hit the subscribe button down below, share with a friend, press like or dislike, and of course, we want to hear your comments. Yes, that is true. What are we going to review? It is What If, Season 1, Episode 6. What if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? It aired on September 15th, 2021. Directed by Brian Andrews. Written by Matthew Chauncey, A.C. Bradley. Cast includes, but it's not limited to, Jeffrey Wright, Michael B. Jordan, Jon Favreau, Chadwick Boseman, Angela Bassett, Danai Gurira, Andy Serkis, Don Cheadle. Killmonger rescues Tony Stark when his Humvee is attacked in Afghanistan and manipulates his influence for his designs of conquering Wakanda. So this is interesting because it kind of plays with the Iron Man and the parts of the Black Panther movie, but lots of things are different and changed. And of course, there's no Avengers. No Avengers. All right. What?
No Iron Man.
No Iron Man. Which there you go. One for becomes the other, I guess. I don't know what I'm saying. Slattman, you're up first, sir. What was your first impression of Episode 6?
I enjoyed the story. I thought that the animation again was very well done. The voice acting was top notch. I love Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, so it was great to hear him back in the role. And I enjoyed how I felt like this was a very dark story compared to a lot of the others we've gotten in the series.
Like the Dr.
Really?
One, yeah.
This is the dark
the
story?
zombie one?
Well, okay, so let me clarify. The zombie one was dark, yes, but it had a lot of humor thrown into it. And I feel like this one didn't have a lot of that tongue-in-cheek humor that like Peter Parker provided. I also feel like, and it lacked like the Paul Rudd talking head.
Well, you still had Stark, who was cracking jokes throughout it.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe I didn't resonate with the jokes as much this time, or maybe they flew over my head, but
you didn't like Ulysses Claw and his humor? He didn't make it rain, so it wasn't as funny.
I got no words for that one. But I thought it was a very interesting story, but I don't know if I liked it.
Very interesting. Christopher,
I don't know. I'm very I can admit that I know that it is a very well-made episode. It is a good story, but I'm not sure if I personally enjoyed it.
I get you, sir. Christopher G. Moore, what is your first impression of What If Killmonger rescued Tony Stark?
I mean, I feel kind of similar to to what Chris is saying. This is my least favorite episode of the whole season, actually. I think because this falls into the problem that I thought might happen with this series, where it's just more about like, this happened, so let's switch this. And this one just felt like, I mean, it was interesting how the like the butterfly effect of like, once he saves Iron Man, saves Stark, he doesn't have this impetus to create the Iron Man suit. He doesn't have he doesn't have to get the arc reactor for his chest. He doesn't have to do all these different things. And so, and then you have the Killmonger, who finds sort of a different way of basically getting back at people that he did sort of in Black Panther. And so you have that, but it didn't feel as interesting. I mean, there's interesting aspects of that. Like, you learn certain aspects of certain characters. You get to sort of see a different way things turn out in regards to Black Panther. You see a lot of those things, but to me, the Stark, I thought, was kind of entertaining, because we get to sort of see a side of Stark that's more akin to the comics. But at the same time, I don't know. I felt kind of detached from this episode, to where I wasn't like, it's interesting, and then like, I don't know. And it's weird, because if you think about each of these episodes, they all kind of end in not really a happy way. It kind of ends in a weird, dark way. And so it kind of makes me wonder if that's when the watcher at some point is going to step in and say, okay, I'm tired of all these dark endings. There's got to be some kind of happy ending. So that maybe that's what we'll see, a roundup all the different heroes from different episodes. But yeah, overall, I thought it was like it's still cool. It's still got some cool action stuff in it, which is fun. But overall, it was just like, I don't know. Coming off of like the zombie and the Doctor Strange and some of these other episodes, this one felt a little bit less interesting. Felt a little bit more, I hate to say lackluster, but it didn't really. The storyline didn't really interest me as much as the other ones. Those changes, to where it just like, it's basically just Killmonger doing what he's doing, but just another way of getting around to it. Finally getting what he was wanting to get out of his arc in Black Panther. So yeah, so I mean, it was an okay episode. It's still, the episodes that aren't up to the snuff of the other ones are still good episodes. It's just, this one it was kind of okay. I mean, it didn't really blow me away or like wow me. Yeah, it was just okay.
Yeah, I'll take this one step further. I didn't like this. I thought this was crap. I thought this was absolute crap. I mean, I enjoyed the vocal cast being back. It was great hearing them, but I just thought, I don't know. I didn't enjoy this very much at all. It was just not. It was everything I didn't want to see. The animation's good. There's actually some parts of it where they're like building, and there's some really interesting animation that you don't normally, you don't always see, where things actually move around and they spin things on, while they're holding them and stuff like that. Usually it's very straightforward, and a lot of times when they try to pump these out real quick. But so technically it's fine, but story wise, I'm not a fan. I did not enjoy this one. I don't think it helped the character. It didn't really show us a different side of the character of Killmonger. It just didn't really do anything for me. I'm just going to shut up and say I didn't like it. I just did not like it.
I thought I was going to be the only one that was negative on it.
Well, I guess they can't all be winners. I think with this one, it's just a different path for his character, as opposed to, there wasn't really any kind of arc to his character at all. Not to say there's got to be any kind of arc, because even the Black Panther as Star-Lord, there wasn't really. I guess there's a little bit of arc to his character. Well, I felt like, there wasn't. I mean, yeah. It's just a
This,
different path.
yeah, the story was very flat. It was very flat. It wasn't as engaging as the previous ones had been. It didn't really. It was just absent of everything that I enjoy and everything else. So it was kind of like it was more like, what if the Marvel Universe, cinematic universe, was really boring? That's what this episode is to me. That's the what if.
Well, I mean, the last third is very kind of predictable how it's going to play out, and you don't really. Yeah, just it seems like he's just doing everything and screwing everybody over, and it's like by the end of it, it's like this is a kind of entertaining to watch
I
this guy
mean,
be a dick to all these different people, and
it gets
so
really repetitious. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
he basically does that 4 times in a row, right? He does it to, or 5 times if you really want to get into it, because he does it to War Machine, Black Panther, Claw, Tony Stark, and then the Wakanda. So, and then I
I
guess you
was
could say to General Ross as well. I mean,
Yeah.
really, so come on, go.
well, I was kind of hoping that there'd be some kind of switcheroo or something happened to where people caught on to it, because I mean, they kind of hinted that I mean, I guess we're in spoiler territory, but we kind
Yes,
of
we are.
hinted that the girl kind of knows things, but I kind of wish they'd caught on like when they're in Wakanda or do
Yeah.
something,
It
I
would
just
have
felt like
been
everybody was just stupid.
it would have been a lot more interesting if instead of the fight with all the robots and stuff, it instantly went into the dream sequence under the Black Panther, and it was basically like, and he got called out by T'Challa, Spirit Form T'Challa, and Spirit Form T'Challa was able to talk to the Wakandans because of it and all that. That would have been a much more interesting way to take it, I think.
Yeah, if T'Challa had showed up in spirit form when that big fight had happened, you know
Yeah.
how cool that would have been. If he'd showed up in like his little panther form, his spirit panther form, that would have been cool. But I don't know. By the end of it, you were just seeing this sort of, you were just watching the dominoes fall, and it wasn't any kind of interesting way of watching the dominoes fall. You knew how it
That's
was
a good
going
way
to
to
play
put it.
out.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Once they reveal that he's double and triple crossing people, it just it also kind of made me mad because the Watcher's dialogue indicates that it's kind of a redemption of the character, and it just isn't. It's just tired.
It
It would
also
have been more interesting if Black Panther had turned out to be a bad Black Panther. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That would have been more interesting if you had Killmonger who was actually fighting against an evil Black Panther.
Or if because Killmonger saved Tony made a suit for Killmonger, and Killmonger became like a Black Panther Iron Man like combo. Like that
Iron
would have
Panther,
been, yeah, that would have been more interesting too.
Steel
yeah,
Panther.
Steel Panther. Oh no, but he, I don't know. To me, it just fell flat, and I think the most interesting part is the last 2 minutes with Pepper and Shuri, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the more interesting conflict there. So
This one feels more like a part 1 of 2 than any of the other ones, because even though that I complained that the zombies one felt like it was really a part 1, this one really feels like a part 1, because I feel like the whole point of this is to have Shiri and Pepper go take out Killmonger, like, and that's the big build up, and that's the big like story that they're trying to tell with this. And I don't know.
Or if Shiri had made like an Iron Man type suit for Pepper Potts and she showed up at the end.
Yeah, that would have been so cool.
You know what I mean? I mean, I was kind of hoping that would happen, because I was like, but then it's like I realized they hadn't really created the Iron Man technology yet. So it's like, but I don't know. I thought something big was going to happen, and it just played out like I automatically knew that it wasn't going to be as easy as them going underneath the bubble. And I mean, there's just, it's so predictable by the end of it. It's like, but a kind of a boring predictableness. And I really wanted some kind of something to shake it up, something I wasn't expecting to happen in the end, and it didn't. So it was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was entertaining, but just not there.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean,
some people have been saying, I've been reading online, a number of people have been saying that the What If series is suffering a conclusion problem. The ending problem. They're having trouble ending the episodes.
I would agree.
I wouldn't have until this episode. I think this episode is that, but the previous ones I was totally fine with. This one feels that way. What about you, Christopher G. Moore?
I mean, it has an ending. I think they're trying to compare normal endings to normal series. That this is like saying that every twist at the end of Twilight Zone is they have an ending problem. You know what I mean? So it's I don't think you're necessarily supposed to wrap everything up in a pretty bow. It's just supposed to say, okay, this is the weird universe we live in, and this is how it plays out. And then at the end we learn a lesson, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Or we got an arc or some kind of, deviant or variant.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, and they also, I think for me, the biggest problem is like, we see so many that they're basically just, I almost feel like there's photocopying scenes from the other movies, and they're like, oh, this is how this plays out. And we get to see this sort of scene again, but maybe with a different character or just maybe different dialogue or whatever. And we see that repetition so much that sometimes you're like, I feel like I'm just watching the MC movies again, but just with a little bit of changes. It's almost like a, choose your own adventure with scenes from the movies.
It really, I agree. It does feel like it's just lacking a lot of the creativity that the What If comics had, and the wild and crazy out there stories, because they're trying to tie everything back to the MCU rather than creating their own thing.
Well, and I think that's the problem, the dependence on that specific timeline and the dependence on how those stories are played out by even just like replicating shot for shot how certain things happen. To me, it's like that's the repetitiveness of it, to where it's like I kind of wish they just do the What If and tell some whack ass story, but I guess that maybe that would maybe make it harder for them to animate when they're just like, we'll just replicate these shots from this movie and we'll just add our own little things in there.
I think that's why the Doctor Strange and the I think that's why really the last 3 episodes worked so well, because they were so different.
Well, you have a jumping off point. Yeah, I mean, you sort of start with those elements that we know, and then you create these stories in a whole new either locations or universe or whatever, and that's more interesting to me. You still have those characters that we know and love, but yeah, I think that's the more interesting thing. But when it's just sort of like a paint by numbers thing, to where we're going to slide this scene in here from this movie, we're going to slide this scene here from this movie, after a while, it's like it feels like kind of, I hate to say it, kind of lazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. Well, Slattman, you were up first, sir.
So my final thoughts. I don't really like the episode as much as the others, but I can admit that it is very well voice acted. The animation is crisp and very, very well done. There are many scenes that look like they would come right out of a comic. They're like the scene where Killmonger's looking at the Wakandan sunrise. That's probably my favorite scene, just because it's so pretty. There's so many colors and so many things. It looks so nice to look at. And then the action scenes are really cool to look at too. And Christopher G. Moore's favorite thing: you can't really beat up on humans, but you can obliterate robots without any issues. That really happens in this episode, and they really take advantage of it.
Well, they get rid of some humans in here too.
Well, yeah, but not nearly as brutally as they do with the as the robots, at least on screen.
True. Poor Tony, though.
Yeah. And yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But I'd agree. It's kind of repetitive and boring and unimaginative at times. But it's fine. It's probably a 3. Like it's average. It's fine. It's a 3.
Okay. And you already said your favorite scene is the sunrise or sunset scene or whatever.
Yeah, the sunrise scene.
Okay, fair enough. Christopher G. Moore, sir, your final thoughts, your score, and your favorite scene.
And I'll throw in some of my Easter egg tidbits in my final.
Oh, that's
thoughts,
right.
just
Yes,
to throw
thank
it
you.
in there to a few things to notice in the episode. They mention Killmonger mentions that's his nickname, and which, if you remember in Black Panther, Everett Ross mentions that he received that nickname in Afghanistan, and so basically we get to see basically right after he got that nickname when they're in Afghanistan. Also, when Stark makes the joke that what happened, he's like, "Well, I did spill my drink." He mentions it's a 26 Macallan whiskey, which is the reason why he was upset about his drink being knocked, because a bottle of it sold in 2018 for $1.2 million. So I can understand why he would be mad about his drink. Also, you hear the Killmonger theme in a few scenes. Whenever a few scenes of the episode involving him, there's a riff on Butch Cassidy and Sundance, which is a nice kind of reference because we did have a Robert Redford in the MCU. And there's also because I think there was also one of the Endgame, he made a big Lebowski reference, which of course, the bad guy in the first Iron Man film was played by the same actor. Also, we get another thing like we did with one of the previous episodes where we saw Mark Ruffalo playing the Hulk at the time Edward Norton was the Hulk. Now we get to see Don Cheadle sort of
That's right. Yes.
Recast as Terrence Howard's Rhodey, who is actually the first Rhodey before he wanted more money, and they're like,
he got Darren.
Marvel was like, "See ya." Let's see. Killmonger actually says a line that Stark says in the first Iron Man film, where he says, "Peace means having a bigger stick than the other guy." Stark says that to a reporter in the first film. He mentions that's something his dad told him. The Liberator design, which looks like a Gundam, actually ties into Michael B. Jordan, who has a huge love for anime. And actually, if you know, in Black Panther, his outfit was actually inspired by Vegeta. I think that's how you pronounce it, in Dragon Ball Z. So it's kind of interesting that his character would make something that looked like one of those anime like robots. I've mentioned earlier that you get to see Stark drinking a lot in this episode. And the comics, he was known for being this huge alcoholic, which they haven't played. They played a little bit of two, I guess, in the second one maybe, but they haven't played it up as much. And so you get to see more of what that character is, has been actually in the comics. The sonic taser gun is actually a different version of the same one that Obadiah used on Stark in the first Iron Man film, because he used it against him a few times, I think. Also, with Black Panther dying from the sonic weapon, that ties into the sonic powered claw, which was his biggest antagonist in the comics. He was almost like the Joker to the Black Panther in the comics. Also, one big thing we learned is that Queen Ramona is a general, and she's a badass general at that. And that was kind of cool seeing that character being like some queen, dainty queen, just seeing out her fighting, leading the troops to battle. That was pretty awesome. So that's something we hadn't seen. Anyway, that was a few of the tidbits. Overall, it's a lackluster episode. It's still got some cool stuff in it, interesting things, but overall, it just didn't feel up to the same level as the others. And I think it falls into sort of repetitive fatigue, where they tell these stories, but it feels like they're just regurgitating stuff we've seen before, but just changing up what's in the regurgitation. That's a horrible analogy. Anyway, I'll give this the same. I'll give it a 3. I'll give it halfway. It just, I was, to be honest, I was kind of bored by this episode, and I hope there's more interesting things than other things. As for favorite scene, I'll just say the hope I'm not stealing Doc's thunder, but I like the battle where the Wakandans are battling against the robots and stuff. I thought that was pretty badass, especially when Killmonger's got that big rhino and he's just going through. But I just love like the fighting with their weapons and stuff, because there's like one part where one of the female warriors, she like gets it between two and then knocks them out.
That was Queen Ramona, yeah.
Queen Ramona. I was like, there's so many badass moves, these really acrobatic things where and you talk about, Chris is talking about like, yeah, they're like cutting the legs off of these robots and stabbing them in the head. I mean, they definitely, if they were humans, this would be rated NC-17. So, yeah, overall, that's probably my favorite scene, because that was when it finally came to life a little bit, just seeing a lot of the action in that scene, to where it's like, oh, I want to see more of this stuff.
Yeah. I think I made it clear I didn't like this one. It just fell flat for me. It didn't really tell anything different enough and interesting enough, and it just kind of removed everything that I like about the MCU. It didn't, give me an alternate version of it. It just wiped it clean. And so I didn't like that. I didn't enjoy it. So I'm going to give it 2.25. 2.25.
That's still halfway.
Yeah,
that's
almost.
Still okay.
Just a little under average. Right? 2.5 would be halfway, right? All right. And my favorite scene, I'm going to go with the very final scene. I like that, the Shuri and Pepper Potts together, because I can imagine that excited me, right? Because I can imagine where that would go, because that would be the start of gathering up, resources to take Killmonger on, because Killmonger's got everybody fooled. So they've got to find other resources, and those other resources are going to be whatever happened with the rest of the MCU. So now my mind's going off, and that's what I liked about What If, is that one change, and it changed enough that you would like to see what the rest of what did that mean beyond just the characters that we saw. You get little hints of it. Like you would see the Daily Bugle would be something different. Or something like that, right? So I like that element. And there was a few other ones, and like I said, the animation was fine. Just the story just didn't do it. And it's such great characters. The Killmonger was such a great character in the movie Black Panther, and so were most of the characters in the show, right? All the it's just, I just don't think it did Wakanda any justice.
Well, everybody seemed clueless.
I know, and I don't.
Everyone except for Pepper Potts
and Shuri.
Well, and Shuri too, but it's like they should have figured this stuff out before all these people had to die. Yeah.
Well, Beth Hoyt did a really good job voicing Pepper Potts, because it sounded really close to. And then nobody. Oh, you didn't like her? I thought it was fine. And then
she fell flat to me.
Mick Winger did Tony Stark, and that's a thankless job. But he did fine.
Well, I think the guy does Stark gets the nuance of it. I think it's interesting how some of these actors either, I feel like what's his name that played the guy that was still in the metal,
Andy Serkis.
I thought Andy Serkis seemed to have. I mean, he's used to voicing characters anyhow, so he's a natural at it. So you have somebody like him, and then you have other people that just feel like they're asleep at the wheel. Like, I just woke up and I just recorded my audio for this thing because I don't really have to do much. And I think you find that there is a
Jon Favreau.
Yeah. Well, no, it seems up and down in some of these episodes where you can see some people are having fun with it, and other people are like, I'm just showing up for the check.
Michael B. Jordan did great, and of course Chadwick Boseman did great. Turned out, especially.
Oh yeah, I think they're great. Well, and again, another episode where Chadwick, he's talking from the afterlife. I just like, let's all get in the feels thinking about that. Yikes! And he was recording that in the midst of that, so I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, that could have easily
Oof.
been anybody's favorite scene, just because of how it resonated. All right, well, let's go ahead and get out of here. Christopher Slattman, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun. Looking forward to next episode. You know, you always put, when you do anthologies like this, you put the weak one in the middle, and that's what they did, I think. So it's going to get better from here, guys. It's going to get better from here.
Let's hope so.
What if we get zombies too? Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, if they just did zombies the rest of the season, I wouldn't care. Do it.
And what if Wolverine? What?
Please, don't give
teach
me
it. Don't teach it.
expectations
Don't teach
I
it.
can't deliver on.
No, they can't do it. Not yet, but they could for season 2, I think. Oh, could they?
I think it's 2022 or 2023.
Good. Who knows?
I mean, they're already like hinting at a Fantastic Four, so it's right around the corner.
Man, I can't wait for that news to break. All right, guys, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.